She's shocked and confused with her girl's reaction to the engagement because it's out of character for them to behave this way. And really because her fiance has actually treated them really well. And he's just a great guy.
Yeah.
Remember she shared that with us as well.
She did.
So she's at a loss around how to influence her girls and help them adjust and embrace her choice to remarry. She mentioned feeling at a loss and defeated. Welcome to the Blended Family Coaching Show, where you'll discover how to move your stepfamily from just surviving to truly thriving.
Grab your headphones and listen in as we share practical, real-life strategies for building healthy bonds,
Understanding the kids' perspective,
romance and partnership,
parenting with great teamwork.
and yes, even co-parenting with a difficult ex.
We're Mike and Kim Anderson, and we believe with the right tools, every step couple can overcome the common challenges of stepfamily life.
Join us for authentic and sometimes comical conversations to discover how you can lead your family with confidence and create the future you really want.
Well, hey, everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Hey, I wonder, would you consider leaving a rating and a review for us? We would so appreciate that. And, you know, if we've been bringing you value with the show, I also wonder if you would consider sharing that with someone you know. It might be just telling a coworker or a friend who could also be in a blended family. Or maybe you could share one of your favorite episodes out on Facebook. You can tag us at Mike and Kim Coaching, and we would love to reply to that. But if you could help us just get the word out, we would really appreciate it.
Yeah, it would be awesome. All right, let's dive into today's topic.
Okay.
And it's one that can cause a lot of pain for blended families.
There's a lot of those topics, aren't there?
There is. So what are we talking about today? Rejection, resistance, and refusal.
Oh, man.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Now, this was a topic that was suggested by one of our listeners, Lainey, who reached out and shared her heartbreak around her personal experience.
Yeah.
And here's some of what she shared with us. She said, I found your podcast several months ago and have been gaining so much amazing insight from you too.
Well, thanks, Lainey.
Thank you, Lainey. She goes on to say, I am a full-time mom of 2 teenage girls. My fiance is full-time dad to 2 teenage boys. We have both been divorced and raising these kids as single parents for 10 years. We started dating 3.5 years ago, and after several months decided that we wanted to introduce the kids because this was something with a future.
Yeah.
Lainey goes on to share some of her story about how her girls have been resisting the relationship between her and her fiancé and refusing to engage in her desire to move forward with a wedding.
Yeah, pushing back there.
Yeah. She shared with us there has been a lot of conflict in her home, and the girls have been obstinate, as she put it. And in her frustration, she shares, to say the girls have been difficult is an understatement.
I get it.
She goes on to say that I feel so lost and defeated, and I fear that I'm sacrificing my relationship with my girls to have a future with my fiance.
What a tough position.
Really tough. Lainey shared that she's even been going to counseling along with her girls, and it's clear that she's done a lot of research about healthy blended family dynamics, and she's been trying to find support and guidance for all of these struggles for quite some time.
Yeah.
One other interesting comment she made to us was that anyone who knows my girls knows how precious, sweet, kind, and loving they are. This is totally out of character for them and has shocked all who know us well.
Wow.
It's not like them to be so selfish and unrespectful. Finally, Lainey asks, what else can we be doing to work on these relationships?
Wow.
Gosh.
It's so tough. You know, first, Lainey, we just want to thank you for sharing your story and acknowledge that this really is a tough situation.
Absolutely.
We're so sorry for the pain that you've been experiencing. And, you know, even though it sounds like Lainey and her fiance have done the research and approached the blending process in kind of the best way possible, that doesn't always guarantee that the kids will have the ability to embrace these changes and accept new people into the family. It's just, there is no guarantee.
No.
And, you know, it really sounds like Lainey's struggling with several different things here. And I'll bet many of our listeners can relate to some of what she's experiencing. She's shocked and confused with her girl's reaction to the engagement because it's out of character for them to behave this way. And really because her fiance has actually treated them really well. And he's just a great guy.
Yeah,
Remember she shared that with us as well.
She did.
So she's at a loss around how to influence her girls and help them adjust and embrace her choice to remarry. She mentioned feeling at a loss and defeated.
Yeah, and she's also struggling with some really difficult emotions and feelings around all of this because she's so worried about her relationship with her girls.
Sure, and rightfully so.
Yeah, she expressed a lot of fear around if she's sacrificing her relationship with her kids to have a future with her fiance. And this is such a tough place to be emotionally.
Yeah, really.
So there's several layers to this dynamic and a lot going on for Lainey. And, you know, Lainey, we just want to commend you for getting yourself and your girls into counseling so that you all have a safe space to express your feelings. And hopefully your counselor has training and experience with blended family dynamics. That can be really helpful.
Definitely.
But engaging in the counseling process with your girls and also individually if you need to, that can definitely be beneficial for all of you in growing your ability to feel heard and to gain empathy and understanding for each other, which all blended family members need to learn how to do well, not just in these dynamics, but in every circumstance.
That's right. So let's explore this topic and just see how we might bring some value to Lainey and to you who are listening that might be struggling with a child or maybe even children who are having a hard time accepting this idea of blending. They're pushing back or possibly even rejecting your partner. Or maybe if you're the new person coming into the dynamic, they've rejected you as the step-parent. Now, we won't be able to answer all of Lainey's questions, and we certainly can't solve all the issues in a single podcast episode. But we're going to suggest some thoughts and a few strategies to consider if you're facing these dynamics and you're just at a loss. We hope this is going to inspire and encourage Lainey and you in the midst of what probably is a very challenging season. So let's get started, okay?
All right. Let's start by emphasizing how important it is to be persistent as you forge a path through rejection. You know, in Ron Deal and Gary Chapman's book, Building Love Together in Blended Families, there's an entire chapter dedicated to building love in the face of rejection.
Yeah.
And one thing they share in the book is this. In most relationships, especially romantic ones, love usually develops first, then trust, which deepens your experience of love. However, when facing rejection in a blended family, the process is different. In order to first build trust, which can then open the door to love, step-parents have to be stubbornly persistent to show themselves faithful.
Wow.
Yeah. So let's talk about this word faithful and how that applies here. And I went ahead, I looked up one definition of the word faithful, and it really seems to fit. It said faithfulness is the concept of unfailingly remaining loyal to someone or something and putting that loyalty into consistent practice regardless of extenuating circumstances.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah, and you know, some of the circumstances with our kids are extenuating. Not only do we have a lot going on emotionally, but our kids do too. But let's explore how we can be consistently practicing our loyalty and commitment to the kids, regardless of how they're reacting to us.
Yeah,
That's
I like
the hard
that,
part.
consistently practicing.
Yeah.
And you know, in their book, Ron and Gary go on to say, in the face of opposition, continuing to love sends a powerful message that ultimately is hard to deny.
Yeah.
And I would venture to say that this can be applied not only to the step-parent's relationship with a resistant child, but also to the bio-parent's relationship with them. You know, in either case, when you're feeling frustrated, confused, hurt, disappointed, or even defeated like Lainey is, if you're able to remain steadfast and faithfully care for that child and choose to show up well for them, You can gradually help the child understand the truth, and hopefully your faithful care is going to allow them to eventually lower their guard and open up to the possibility of trusting you. But as the adult, you need to go first, and you need to be persistent, even in those times where you receive very little in return.
So challenging.
Ron and Gary are both family therapists, and they state that love without faithfulness leads to doubt and insecurity. And this is important to understand because kids who are coming from a broken family structure or have experienced some deep loss often have doubts, insecurities, fears, anger, and really the list can kind of go on. These feelings are normal, and they're why kids will often be guarded and resist changes to the family structure, like when you're trying to blend a new family.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, back in episode 87, just recently, I had a chance to interview Annika, my stepdaughter, our daughter. And, you know, we talked about a whole lot of things in that episode, but one of the things we talked about was that time she got in trouble at school. And I was the only one available to go pick her up.
She got in big trouble.
Yeah, it was big trouble. It was a big deal. But I was the only one available of all the parents in town to go pick her up. And I remember bringing her home, and we sat in the driveway and we just talked for a while. And she opened up to me, and she shared in that episode a little while back that, you know, she was feeling embarrassed and it was really hard for her. But she knew that I was trustworthy. She knew that she could talk to me. And that only came because of my persistence over the years of doing my best to show up for her really well. I did it so imperfectly, but I kept showing up even when she was really struggling and even bucking against me. And I think it really paid off. And that was like a really poignant moment that I remembered, like,
what did you really want to do?
Really
I mean, what
open.
were you thinking?
I was ticked. I kind of wanted to go off on her and lecture her and all of that. But I knew in that moment it was just like all the moments before.
She
like, wait a second, I need to figure out how to love this child first, and we'll deal with the consequences and all that in a little while.
Yeah, I think she really felt understood in that moment.
Yeah, I think she felt cared for.
Yeah. And, you know, it's not just how the step-parent handles things, but how the bio-parent handles their child's resistance really matters too. It's very important. And I think that many parents attempt to help their kids accept these challenging dynamics by trying to convince them that they don't need to feel any of these negative feelings, right? Sure. I mean, I've been guilty of this for sure.
Yeah.
We set our kids down and we try to tell them, sometimes even lecture them about how great our new partner is and how much they love and care about them, and it's all good, and they should get happily on board with this. Be excited to blend, right?
Well, I can see. I mean, I'm pretty great, so I can see why you tried to lecture her, right?
It wasn't an easy sell, but it didn't go over right off the bat.
Well, maybe I'm not as great as I think I am.
But as parents, we often tend to minimize our kids' negative emotions about the situation, and instead we attempt to replace them with our own perspectives around why they shouldn't be doubtful or insecure or afraid or angry. Yeah. And unfortunately, this usually makes things worse because now the kids don't feel heard or affirmed in their own emotions, which are very real for them.
Sure.
They feel dismissed, or they may come to believe that their concerns aren't really important to you. And sadly, they can jump to the misguided conclusions that they must not be important to you, which of course isn't the case. Yeah. But it can be natural for a parent to want to ease their child's troubling emotions and kind of set them straight. And we believe this is going to help them to see reality. The problem is that when we attempt to implant our perspective onto them, we're actually creating more confusion and disconnection in our relationship with them. It can be very difficult, in some cases impossible, to change someone's reality simply by telling them yours and expecting them to adopt it, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Especially with teens and
that's
right?
true.
Young
I mean, it's
adult
true
children.
with anybody, right? Yeah. So here's what we want you to ask yourself as you're thinking about this. Is it okay for your kids to have a different perspective than you? Like, that's the question that we start with. And it's a really important question to ask ourselves Because if you're desperately trying to impart your perspective onto your resistant kids or stepkids, you're probably holding on to some unrealistic expectations that this approach is going to turn them around.
Yeah.
And you really aren't in a frame of mind to faithfully and persistently give the kids what they really need over the long haul.
Right.
That persistent, faithful showing up for them. And if your honest gut level answer to that specific question is, well, no, it's not okay, then you're likely going to need to find a way to readjust those expectations. And you may want to do a little research around what kids might be experiencing throughout the blending process. In fact, understanding kids' perspectives is one of what we call the 5 essential elements to blended family success. And the goal in gaining a stronger understanding around the kids' perspectives and learning to accept that it may be okay for their perspective to be different than yours is so that you're able to patiently wait for the kids to get to a place where they can trust and accept the blending process. Yeah. It's probably not going to happen as quickly as you'd like or as you would expect it will or as you think it should.
Yeah.
And if those expectations are out of line, this is going to negatively impact your capacity to remain faithful and stick it out through the tough season of loving kids unconditionally and really investing in your family, waiting and not expecting them to move faster than they're able. Now, we do realize how tough this can be to think about managing all this.
So tough.
Let's try to simplify it a little bit and get really practical around some powerful messages that you can focus on continually sending the kids, not just verbally, but also living out day to day as you're interacting with your kids and patiently waiting for them to maybe change their perspective a little bit.
It's going to take time.
Absolutely. And these loving messages that we're going to talk about, they're going to help you to remain faithful even when you're feeling frustrated and hurt. And you really can shift your energy and choose to focus on sending the kids these messages and move away from trying to get them to accept your perspective.
Right.
This is really a crucial mindset shift that will help you to stay the course. And these messages will help the kids to feel affirmed and cared for, even if they don't yet trust you and continue to reject the blending process.
Yeah.
So let's talk about these important messages.
Absolutely. So if you're a bio parent, here are 3 important messages you want to continually and persistently send to your kids.
Okay.
The first message is you belong. Let your kids know that they aren't being left behind.
Yeah.
Ease their fears by including them in as much as possible without forcing them to engage.
Delicate balance.
That's the key. And when they do show up and choose to engage, express your appreciation and let them know how much you enjoyed them being there.
Yeah.
Now, this doesn't mean that you never spend time alone with your partner. That's not what we're suggesting here. This is more about inviting and encouraging the kids to join you for fun events and new adventures. This is especially important for young adult kids who are maybe off at college, right? And they're only home for a little bit. Continue to include them, even if you think they won't be interested or can't make it, or if they've turned your invitations down in the past.
Yeah.
Let them know they belong and that your blended home is still their home base.
That's great.
And when they do show up, allow them to relax and just be. Remove the expectations. Let them find their own way of fitting in. Don't apply pressure. And, if they choose not to engage with the family, don't allow your hurt feelings or disappointment to stop you from continuing to send this message.
Yeah.
You belong.
Yeah, that's good.
This is not an appropriate time to lecture or punish or withdraw from your child. This will only add to their confusion and maybe even affirm any negative beliefs that they might have. Instead, continue to include them and really help them to feel welcome and loved.
That's good. So you belong is that first message.
Yeah, even if they have a bad attitude and are just acting, standoffish, they belong. And this is a tough one. Annika spent a lot of time in counseling growing up because she really struggled. And one of the things the counselors said to us, you might remember this, honey, was that, you know, she doesn't know where she belongs.
Yeah, she doesn't know where she fits.
Yeah, because she was always moving back and forth. And this really broke my heart because we always did our best to try to speak this message and include her. And, you know, including a child that spends time moving back and forth between homes, it's exhausting because you have to really work at scheduling things and making it happen. And but I was pretty adamant about a lot of things that I wanted to make sure Annika felt like she belonged and she was included.
Of course.
It does take work.
Yeah, and I think you even just verbalize it sometimes. You know, hey, you know what? I just want you to know you belong here.
And one thing we've noticed that kind of, you know, affirms that she did get the message, even though she struggled, was now, you know, she's 25 years old. And when she comes into town, you know, she walks right in the door. She doesn't knock, and she heads straight to the fridge to see what she wants to snack on and plops down on the couch.
Funny, that's the first place she goes.
Yeah, she does feel welcome. So that really affirms me and warms my heart that, I think she did finally get it.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right, so you belong is the first message. What's the
message.
Second message a bio-parent wants to focus on?
The second message is, I value our relationship. Now, this may sound like a no-brainer. Like, of course, my kids know that I value them. They may not.
Yeah.
You know? So you want to make sure that you continue to spend quality one-on-one time with your bio kids and look for ways to routinely connect with them, to have fun, to enjoy your relationship. Continue as many of your normal routines and rituals as possible, and think of ways to recreate some of your favorite memories that you've had in the past. Don't fall into the trap of insisting that your new partner be included every time you do something with your kids.
Right.
This is a mistake. It might come from a good place, right? You really do want your partner and your kids to connect and get to know each other. But it can backfire and make the kids feel like you don't have time for them anymore, or that you're choosing your new partner over them.
Right.
Your kids need exclusive time with you, especially in the beginning. They need to understand that you value them and that your relationship and your commitment to them is not going to change.
That's right.
Let them know that. And, you know, if you want to understand more around the very real dynamic that can happen when kids are comparing and competing with love, which can occur during the blended process. And Ron and Gary's book, that's a great source. It gives some really good insight around what you can say and do when your kids question your loyalty to them and they struggle to really feel loved. I would definitely recommend that book, and we'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Yeah, that's good. So I value our relationship. What's the third message? We're so excited to let you know about something brand new we've created just for you.
We've realized that with so many episodes available here on the show, it might feel a bit overwhelming to find the topics that matter most to you. That's why we've created a simple tool for you to receive a personalized playlist focused on your current struggle or your biggest challenge.
That's right. It's called the Blended Family Breakthrough Quiz. You'll answer just a few questions, and based on your responses, we'll email you a curated custom playlist of episodes that are specific to you.
This simple quiz will direct you to the most impactful episodes that pertain to you personally and keep you on track in your journey of discovery, learning, and growth. So, scroll all the way to the bottom of the show notes for this episode and click the link to take the Blended Family Breakthrough Quiz today.
Okay, let's get back to the discussion.
The third message is, I'm here for you emotionally. This is huge. We've heard this quote from Mark Gregston. Behavior is the visible expression of invisible issues. It's the warning light on the dashboard.
That's right. That's good.
I love that word picture. You know, most of the time, children really do have valid reasons for their negative behaviors. but it can be hard for them to articulate what they're feeling. It's hard for us to articulate a lot. We can't expect our kids to be able to.
Yeah.
Often our kids don't even know what they're feeling. So instead they'll act it out. And that's exactly why they need our patience, empathy, and they need our help.
Yep.
What we really want to do is step back and look at the big picture of what might be going on under the surface of their behavior. What are the losses or the painful emotions that they might be experiencing? Even when we don't agree with it or understand it, we can still open up valuable opportunities to gain insight into their world, come alongside them, and help them to navigate through their tough realities.
Sure.
You can help them to surface the hurt, and this is when painful beliefs start to lose their power, when they're expressed and brought to the surface.
Yeah, that's good.
So important. So really, the bottom line here is that when you're able to affirm your kid's unique perspective, even when it's different than yours, you're actually helping them to feel heard and known. And if you feel like you need some tools so that you can do this really well, we highly recommend the book, How to Raise an Emotionally Intelligent Child by John Gottman.
Super good.
Yeah, you can also check out our episode 71. It's called How to Help Kids Cope with Painful Disappointment. And this episode maps out the 5 steps of emotion coaching, which is in the book as well. And we talk in that episode around holiday disappointment, but you can use these 5 steps to help kids cope with any troubling feelings or painful situations that they might be experiencing.
Yeah, it's not just about the holidays. That's
not at all. And the more you can learn about kids' perspectives, the better. Because understanding your kids is the first step to helping them move forward. And Lainey mentioned that she's read the book In Their Shoes, and that's a really great book. Good job, Lainey. But we want to encourage you, continue learning. We have 13 episodes just on the topic of understanding kids' perspectives. And there are many, many more resources out there. But we'll put a link to episode 40 to get you started. It's called Uncover the Unspoken Feelings of Kids in Blended Families, which is actually a review of that book, In Their Shoes, if you're interested in learning more about that. Now, this kind of learning can really help you to gain more empathy for what your kids might be experiencing, and that will provide you with crucial understanding and the ability to send that final message that you're here for your kids emotionally, and that can make a huge impact in how well they're able to adjust all the changes and move forward. Now, don't get me wrong here. These loving messages are not an alternative or a replacement for holding your kids accountable for blatant disrespect towards you or your spouse.
Yeah, good point.
And we're going to talk more about that in next week's episode of dealing with disrespect and really poor behavior.
Yeah, for sure. So it sounds like bio parents are focused on the messages, you belong, I value our relationship, and I'm here for you. You know, and we're talking about emotionally. Just helping them understand that. That's good. Well, how about we talk a little bit from a step-parent's perspective?
Let's do that.
Now, if you're a step-parent, there's 3 important messages that you can faithfully speak as well. One of them is, I'm for you. And what you want to do here is you look for ways to show support around what's important to the child and get excited when things go their way. You know, they need to actually see that you're on their side through life's ups and downs. We've got a really effective strategy that could help you tangibly demonstrate this message through action, which is really impactful because the bio parent can tell their kids how great you are and how supportive you are and how awesome you are and all the things that Kim tried to say about me. And they don't really hit the mark. Right? Because kids don't want to take that information.
Goes in one ear and out the other.
What they really need are opportunities to experience your support and then internalize it for themselves. This is where actions really speak louder than words. So if you're interested in learning a specific strategy that'll set you up to shine and let your stepkids see that you really are for them, not just hear it from their parent, then check out episode 9. It's called A Surprisingly Simple Strategy for Bonding with Stepkids. And you'll find a link to that in the show notes. Now, this strategy was very helpful for me in showing my stepdaughter, Annika, that I was for her and that I really wanted good things for her. So I'm leaving that one a little bit cryptic. You got to go check it out in episode 9. But remember, the message you're focused on is I'm for you.
Yeah.
Now, the second message that you can focus on as a step parent is I'm ready when you are. And this is about letting each child set the pace in your relationship with them. You'll want to experiment with ways to invite them or to engage them on some level, even if it's small, and then carefully gauge their response.
Yeah.
The key is to remain open, even while they're still closed to having too much involvement with you. And to do this, you need to decide in your heart to keep the bridge of connection open no matter what. Stay faithful and persistent while earning a child's trust.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a big hugger. Like one of my love languages is physical touch. And I remember early on, I was pretty excited, actually. I mean, I was nervous about blending a family, but at the same time, I was excited about being dad. And I really wanted to snuggle and cuddle Annika. You know, early on, at least with me, she wasn't the snuggly, cuddly type. And I remember this one moment. It was somewhat early in our journey, but I remember really intentionally holding back and not forcing myself on to, you know, give hugs or put my arm around her or hold hands or anything like that. And there was this one moment where we were all in the car and you were dropping me off somewhere. And I leaned in the car to give you a kiss goodbye. And from the back seat, there was this cute little voice that's like, me too, or what about me, or something like that. I'm like,
where's mine?
What do you mean, what about me? And she's like, well, where's my kiss? And I was like, I remember like, wow, she's actually asking for some physical affection. And that was really exciting. And I think part of that trust and her just wanting that came from me just holding back a little bit, saying, hey, you know, speaking with my actions more than my words, that I'm ready when you are. I wasn't trying to force my way in there.
Right.
So I think it's a real payoff if you can have the patience to just faithfully be present and available when they're ready to move closer to you, regardless. It could be in any of the areas of the love languages. It could be in conversation. It could be in quality time. It could be in all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But man, I remember that moment. And I remember thinking, oh, I'm so glad I didn't like try to be physically affectionate before she was ready for it.
You basically would be speaking your love language to her and expecting her to receive it as you would.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's important if you have multiple stepchildren to note that every child may have a different pace or a different way of connecting with you.
If you have multiple stepkids, don't group them together as the stepkids. Each child is unique and different. And you may have a very different relationship with each one, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
But with all of them, we're speaking these messages. I'm for you. I'm ready when you are. And the third one is, I'm someone you can count on. Now, this is simply about being there for your stepkids, serving them, showing up well for them, being a constant source of love and care. And if you want to be intentional with this so that your expressions of love will make a meaningful impact, you're going to want to take advantage of the 5 love languages, like we were just talking about, and learn how to apply them in unique, each of your unique circumstances. This approach can be powerful, and it can help you to make meaningful connections with your stepkids. Ron and Gary's book that we referenced earlier is really the best guide we've seen for this in a blended family.
Absolutely.
We also encourage you to go back to listen to episode 37 and 39. That'll give you a bit of a deeper understanding around why stepkids can be resistant and how you can begin to create some bonds and minimize some of that resistance. And we'll put some links in the show notes so that you can get to those pretty easy.
Yeah.
But we really encourage step parents especially to check those out.
Yeah. So when it comes to these powerful messages, you belong, I value our relationship, and I'm here for you emotionally, coming from the bio parent, and I'm for you, I'm ready when you are, and I'm someone you can count on, coming from the step parent.
Yeah.
What we encourage you to do is really spend some time brainstorming simple and practical ways that you can send all of these messages to the kids and how you can do that faithfully over the long haul.
Yeah.
And the key here is to do it without any expectation of how you think the kids should respond or even that anything will change.
Yeah.
In some cases, it can take years for a child to build trust and lower their walls. And there are a lot of things that can impact this, especially loss and loyalties and perceived threats.
Sure.
But if you want to overcome what's behind their rejection, then faithfully persevere, stay the course, stay persistent, and be patient. This is absolutely necessary. There's no easy way around it. Don't give up, even if it feels like you're getting nowhere. Some kids will unconsciously test your faithfulness.
Sure.
They'll continue to push you away and wait to see if you're really invested in building a relationship with them. So if you shut down and give up, you could be confirming their worst fears.
Yeah.
That you don't really care and that you aren't willing to walk through the mess to win their heart.
Yeah. And, you know, all of this that you're sharing here, you know, we're saying persistence and patience and all of that. I mean, we get how hard that is.
So hard.
And the truth is, you know, some of the complexities that come with all that and just getting your own emotions in a solid place where you can be there, that could be a whole like episode series just to get through that. So we're not just glossing over this and saying, oh, just, you know, be persistent and you'll be okay. It's complex and it's challenging, and yet the principle remains true.
Yeah.
And we've got to own that.
Yeah. So we really encourage you to read Ron and Gary's book.
That could be really helpful.
Yeah, it can really equip you with that valuable insight and some wisdom and those tools that you need to stay faithful, earn trust, and speak love to the kids in a variety of ways.
Yeah.
And to do it in the most impactful ways, right? You want to get the most bang for your buck when you do
capitalize
it.
On it. That's right.
So we'll put a link in the show notes to their book, as well as a link to episode 85, where we interview Ron Deal.
Yeah, that was fun.
And that one's called How to Uniquely Build More Love and Connection in Your Blended Family. And by the way, there's also a chapter in their book called Encouragement for the Journey Ahead. Yeah, we need that, right? And that can help you to stay the course and avoid discouragement.
That's right.
It's really great.
That's right. All right. So first, we want to do our best to understand the path through rejection as we remain faithful in sending these important messages to the kids.
Yeah.
And we want to learn the 5 love languages like we just talked about and the most effective ways to show love and care. And as we move forward with all this, we need to have empathy for the kids' perspective and be a safe person for them to process those difficult emotions with. And of course, we want to refrain from pushing our own agenda and perspectives onto the kids. And this might mean that we're going to need to readjust our own expectations and be very patient.
That's a lot.
Well, it is a lot. It is a lot. Wow. But you know what? There's more to explore around this topic. And so we're going to extend this episode a bit, and we're just going to finish up the discussion next week.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't want you to get overwhelmed.
Yeah. We probably already are.
Yeah. But we know that people need help in this arena. Yep. This is tough stuff. But before we wrap up this episode, we want to offer you some encouragement. We've been blending for 20 years, so we have the advantage of hindsight.
Sure.
And we've been through some really difficult seasons, similar to what Lainey described when we were coping with our season of parental alienation. And my daughter seemed to be rejecting us, pushing us away, and it was awful.
Yeah, after several years of her not rejecting, all of a sudden it was like a total flip. Yeah,
it's crazy. But what we've discovered is that a difficult season is only a season. Things change. Truths are uncovered. Trust builds. Revelations are made, perspectives open up, and tiny bonding moments add up to real connection over time.
That's right.
So we encourage you, don't get lost down in the weeds of rejection and stay stuck in the mindset that this difficult season will never end.
That's right. Yeah.
If you stay stuck there, you run the risk of pulling back too far emotionally, and then it will become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, totally.
Chances are, if you remain steadfast and faithful to show up with some level of love and openness, you will likely move past this difficult season.
That's right.
There's hope here.
Yeah.
So choose to get up out of the weeds, slough off the ugly, painful hurts and hang-ups that might be plaguing your family now, and decide to focus on what's possible for your family's future.
Yeah.
When this season has run its course, what could eventually emerge?
That's a great question.
Hold on to hope and don't allow yourself to get stuck beneath the weeds of rejection, because a defeated attitude is going to influence your behaviors and actions.
Yeah, that's right.
Remember that difficult roads often lead to beautiful destinations. And choose to hang in there and do what it takes to show up well for your kids and stepkids. And don't forget to celebrate your wins.
Yeah.
Even the small ones along the way, right?
Yep.
Because imperfect progress is still progress.
We say that so much, don't we?
It's so true.
Progress. Yeah, that's right. Now, something else that Lainey shared with us was that following her girls' negative reaction to the engagement, the girls were stating that they were hurt because they'd not been asked for permission to propose to their mom. You know, Lainey also shared that she and her partner had decided together that asking for the girls' permission was really not a risk they wanted to take due to the hurtful and ugly responses they've already witnessed when Lainey told them that, you know, he had brought her an engagement ring, right?
Right.
So it's really interesting that Lainey's girls believe that they're in a position to grant permission for their mom to remarry.
Yeah, that's
right?
what they were hurt by.
Yeah. And while we want to be mindful of how our kids feel about the decisions that we make and be sensitive to their perspective, the question is in this dynamic is, you know, what's led up to the kids feeling that their permission needs to be given? And we want to explore that a little bit. You know, what's transpired in the relationship with mom over the years, and what are the relational patterns that may have set the stage for this dynamic to happen?
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about here is a delicate yet powerful dynamic that can make things extremely challenging. And that's when the kids have too much power over their parents' decisions.
Yeah.
And so this is what we're going to tackle in our next episode next week. And this might be why Lainey is feeling so defeated at this point. She could also be feeling powerless, right? She's educated herself. She's followed all the experts' advice on this blending thing.
Yeah.
And yet nothing has helped this really painful situation in her family. And this certainly isn't exclusive to Lainey. This can be a really common dynamic, especially when the kids have experienced a long season of living in a single parent home where they've either been given a lot of power or they seem to have naturally kind of taken a lot of power.
Yeah.
And it's normal for these kids to struggle and push back when their parent makes a decision they don't agree with or don't approve of.
Yeah, that's right.
And so that's where we're going to explore next week. And how to overcome power struggles when kids oppose your decision to remarry. When they just seem to have a lot of power and control.
Yeah, that'll be a pretty interesting discussion, I'm sure.
It will be.
Right. Well, you're not going to want to miss that one.
Yeah.
But for now, I think we've given you maybe even too much to think about and consider. And we're going to make this episode a wrap.
Until next time.